Hello, Anna.
Hi Dennis, how are you?
Good. I thought I was early. You've been
Yes,
up and getting everything ready.
yes, absolutely. So we're all okay. Paul's here as well. He'll be
Okay.
logging on in a minute. There's somebody in the waiting room already, so that's good. I did say to people just to join a little bit early so that we can get started at 11, hopefully, as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
no problem. Well, I'm happy as a guest, am I, from our conversation yesterday, so I can just share my screen.
Yeah,
You've given me permission to share my screen, haven't you?
yes. Well, you don't need it. It's there at the bottom, isn't it? You can see that. Um,
Yeah.
you don't need any particular permission to do that. Um,
Okay.
but at least I can just keep an eye on what everybody else is doing and make sure. So we're gonna, I mean, at the moment, I think I have everybody muted as they arrive. And if you can, yeah, if you just say when you kick off, for them to keep their microphones um, on mute.
Yeah, no problem. So look, as I mentioned yesterday, what I'll tell them is that as we've limited time, what we'll do is if they can keep their mics muted, if they have any questions, they can put it in the comment box. And once I'm ready to kick off, then I'll ask them for their name, company, what do they want out of the workshop, so I can see the items as I'm going through the presentation, and I'll answer as many as I can at the end. So that's,
Yes, great.
yeah, no, I'm happy. I ran through a little bit of it there, just to make sure it flowed well. So I'm happy to go.
I'm sure it will. I can make note of the kind of
Oh
questions
yeah, no,
in case any get missed.
great. Yeah, that would be great. No problem. Sure, I'm just gonna mute. Will I stay off for the next couple of minutes now and just
Yeah,
wait on?
whatever you're happy to do. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get a drink of water. Okay.
You go ahead.
Great to see so many faces on this morning. During these challenging times. No doubt about that. I hope you're all keeping well, and we're just waiting. I'm just waiting for Anna. You might give me the nod, Anna, when we have most people in, if you could. Still a few coming in, Anna, yeah?
Still a few. We have just one more coming in from the waiting room now.
Okay. Well, look, we'll kick off, just conscious of the time there. And look, you're all very welcome to this this morning's webinar. Our topic today is SEO Masterclass. And my name is Paul Clancy, I'm CEO of the Chamber. And we're delighted that so many of you could join us this morning. I'm really looking forward to the session, hearing more about how SEO, or search engine optimization, helps small business owners create fast, robust and user-friendly websites that rank higher in search engines, which in turn helps bring more qualified potential customers to their sites and eventually increases conversion rates, which I suppose is another way of saying you're attracting the people that are most likely going to buy your products, and you increase your conversion rate and your hit rate with your active leads. And that's what part of this class, this masterclass is about. So I'm delighted that we have here Dennis Finnegan. Dennis is a digital director at Grofuse, and he's a leading full-service digital growth agency that delivers expertise in digital marketing, web development, e-commerce, and bespoke software solutions to fuel business growth. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dennis. Actually, he's going to take us through a presentation, and I think he's going to encourage people to participate. But I'll hand over to Dennis there. Let you can take it from there if you're okay. And you're sharing your screen there, Dennis. We can all see that.
Great.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks, Anna, for organising the webinar. Hello, everybody. As Paul mentioned, my name is Dennis Finnegan. It's good to recognise a few faces on the call this morning. As Paul mentioned, our agency based in Derry is Grofuse. We're a growth agency, and I've been dealing with the, clients in digital marketing in my own agency since 2004. And this masterclass really is an advanced one to really help you succeed online, especially now post-COVID, when it's very important that you have a very good online presence. And it's not just looking at keywords, it's how SEO is evolving, looking at other aspects, including your conversion rates, your bounce rates, for example. So just before I start, what I would like you to do is, if you want to enter your name and company in the chat, and if there's any particular item or topic that you would like to get out of this masterclass, I'll try to go through them all when I'm going through the presentation. And at the end of the presentation, I'll take any questions. So if you want to mute your mics while the presentation is going on, because we'll get through it in time, but I think we're limited on time. So we should have it all completed for 11:45, and then any final questions. Is that okay, everybody? Good to go. Great. So let me just get the presentations. The focus areas we're going to focus on in this masterclass is benefits of search engine optimization. And then we're going to look at how you're going to improve your rankings. So we're going to focus on how search works, searcher or user intent, the E principle, and behavior analytics data. If you're unsure of any of this, don't worry, I'll be going through these in detail this morning. And then finally, we'll go through the trends for 2021 and beyond that you should be aware of when you're looking at your online digital marketing strategy. So most of you will already understand the benefits of SEO, otherwise you will not be here today. So I'm just going to go through a few of these items. So we know that search engine optimization is a major factor in driving website traffic. It helps you achieve better rankings, and Google does that now with 3 different areas on the search engine. So SERP is search engine rankings position. So this is what you would see when you do a Google search result. 0 position, if you're familiar with it, it's the first position now, it's position 0. And what that does is it works for Google Voice in particular and other voice searches, but it also shows a snippet. So if you can get up there, it's a great position to be. And then your local tree pack. So this is your Google Maps listing. You want to be in those top 3 positions. You're probably all familiar with these days that when you're on your devices and you type in solicitors or accountants, for example, I think Dawn McLaughlin, I see Dawn, you're in this call. If you're looking for accountants, you want to make sure your own business listings are up there. And a lot of people forget about that. So it's very important that you go on to Google My Business and you update it, because there's a lot of new features on it these days. So for example, this is your traditional search snippet up at the top, your position 0, and then your listings below. And this is your Google Maps listing. So in case you don't know what that 3 position is, that's what it looks like. It's very important, especially for professional services, to get Google reviews. And you want to make sure all your services are listed on that as well. The other benefits of SEO, and the one we're really going to be focusing on today, is enjoying improved user experience, which is basically the experience a customer has on your website. And this is going to improve conversion rates, which is your conversion rate optimization strategy, increase brand loyalty, and enhance trust. That just means you're spending so much time improving your rankings and driving traffic to your website. you want to convert those visitors into action. So that's either online sales, phone calls, or inquiries. So that's all that fancy word is CRO means, and UX then is their experience online. This is an example of a client 2-3 years ago that had a site, and traditionally they wanted to improve their rankings. However, when we looked at the data, it was obvious that their conversion rate was low for mobile. Even though their average conversion rate was 2%, mobile was 0.7%. You would want e-commerce sites to be above 1.8% on your conversion rate. And what was happening was, over the years, more people were accessing his website on mobile phones. His sales were going down, but he could not understand it because his conversion rate was updated. So we did a SEO audit. We figured out the problem. We did a new design on mobile and this design on desktop. We doubled his conversion rate, and he's an ongoing monthly client. But more importantly, with all the issues last year from the first lockdown, he was able to be number one for stuff like farm toys, and he had a fantastic year online because he was able to implement a good SEO strategy. So that's just a kind of a real-time example. And then the other benefits of SEO is, if you have a multi-channel approach to digital marketing, which you should have, you can help save money on your Google Ads by improving your organic search results. You can control the quality of your traffic, and you can outperform your competitors, basically sell more, make more money. So we've got the kind of basic stuff out of the way. And just before we go into the main body of the presentation and the workshop, I want you to understand how search works. Now, if you get anything from this workshop today, this slide I would like you to understand. I always have some sort of slide about how search works in any of our SEO masterclasses, because you need to understand how Google operates. A lot of people think SEO is about keywords. They focus on the keywords, they focus on everything, all the information online. Some of it is misinformation, without really understanding how Google makes its money. And if you understand how Google makes its money, you will have a holistic approach to SEO. And I guarantee you, you'll have an 80% chance of succeeding with your SEO strategy. So if you think about it, how does Google operate? Google's got one web page per country. So if that's google.co.uk, google.com, google.ie, for example. So who do you think is Google's customers? A lot of people think people that buy Google Ads is Google customers. Google doesn't care about businesses, doesn't give flying F's about them, okay? Google's customer is the person at home in their pajamas looking online for a hairdryer, looking online because they found a spot and Dr. Google needs to figure out that it's not going to kill them, or whatever the search results is, if they're looking for a piece. That's what Google, and that person is what Google's interested in. So if you imagine that you're at home searching for whatever it is, your local solicitor, a product, a question on something, if you can find what you need very quickly with very little clicks, and then leave Google knowing your answer, would you go back to Google the next time you have a question or you need a product? Of course you would. So that's all you need to worry about SEO. If you can make that user journey great on your website, and don't focus for everybody, just focus on that particular customer you want, Google will reward you with higher rankings. And that's really what SEO is about. There's lots of other stuff that we'll go over today, but if you get that right, you're well over halfway there with your SEO strategy. The reason why Google makes its money is because companies like us and agencies like ourselves have to spend thousands every day on Google Ads, because that's where the people are. So we'll pay whatever we can to get in front of you that's on the couch looking for products. And Google makes most of its money from paying businesses, but it's not making the site improve for businesses, it's making the site improve for customers. I hope that clarifies that. And just a quick overview, you want to aim for completed sales journeys. You want to sell exactly what you promote on your website and always focus on the customer. And that's how you win at SEO. So that's kind of a good way. So, and just to give you an idea, SEO, it's a little bit more difficult these days. When I started many moons ago, this is what your search engine SERP results looked like. So if you were number one on google.co.uk, you were up at the very top. You were getting all the traffic and you were making all the money from your SEO. It was fantastic. These days, it looks a little bit more like this. You've got to compete with Google Shopping. You have to compete with your Google Ads. You've got to compete with the zero position. And you can see down the very bottom is your number one ranking for SEO. So this is why it's very important that it's not just about the keywords. It's about the whole user journey to improve the experience to get better results. So now we've the small talk done in this workshop. We get down to the fun stuff now. So this is really the guts of what I would hopefully get you to get out of this workshop today. So I would like you to get a good, strong understanding of technical on-site and off-site. Most of you will already be familiar with this, so I'm not going to spend too much time this morning on this area. You can get a lot of this stuff online, but it's still very important to make sure there's no errors on your website. We're going to look at the more strategic SEO. That's going to be critical to stay ahead in 2021. We want to make sure all your content is relevant. We want to focus on your user intent or searcher intent. And we want to look at your E-principles. And we'll go through this in more detail. And behavior analytics for user experience as well. So the first slide on this is based on technical SEO on-site and off-site. We could spend a full workshop on this, but there's a lot of stuff on this online at the moment. And it's really broken into these three areas. So technical is make sure your site's not broken. It's fast, it's crawlable on Google. So if you hear companies like me talking about indexing your website, all indexing means is that your site is easily crawled by the Google robots and all the pages are found and they're structured correctly and there's security. If there's errors on your website, if it comes up in Google Search Console, if there's speed issues, if there's potential hacking, Google will penalize your site. So the first thing you do is make sure your site doesn't fail any technical issues. Second information is what a lot of you will be familiar with. This is your on-site. So this is everything to do with your keyword research, your user intent, your content, metadatas, headers, and images. So a lot of you will be familiar. You might use tools like Yoast for WordPress, or if you've other CMS tools or use Shopify, there'll be SEO tools there to help you. All I would say on this is that you want to make sure that the content on your site, the headers, images, is all related to the content and the target audience you want to focus on. So one thing a lot of people forget is alt tags. Alternative tags are extremely important. And when I'm talking about the trends in 2021, I'll go into that in more detail. Headers, you only want one H1 header on your website on your page, and then you want as many H2 and H3 headers. It's about structuring your site correctly. And then make sure all your meta titles and descriptions are done. Think of your meta descriptions as your sales pitch. So even if you're number 4 on Google results, if you've got a better sales pitch than the first 3, you got a better chance of improving your click ratio. Meta keywords are not as important as they used to be. However, anything that you can improve to make sure it's readable is important. I'll talk about this in more detail when we talk about the AI. And finally, offsite. So this just involves strategies to build a brand reputation and online authority. So a good example I think of there is if you have a website, you need to build your authority. So if you have a good backlink that brings people to your website and it's of high authority, it means Google will reward you, but it's about quality. You don't want spammy links going back to your website. And the best way you can think about it is, if you're walking out the Guildhall and you're looking for the diamond, and you see a police officer, or you see a person that looks a bit down on their luck, and they have a bottle of beer in their hand, which authority figure would you trust? So I assume you'll say the police officer. So of course, so websites work like that as well. So if you've got spammy links, we've all seen those links back in the early noughties, farm links and India, and you probably get spam emails every day about people building links. Google penalizes companies that take advantage of those. They don't work for SEO. So it's important to build your links. So everybody here who's a member of the Derry Chamber could get a link on the Derry Chamber website back to their website, because the Derry Chamber would have an authoritative link. If you're involved in accountancy, for example, if you were on the Chartered Institute's website linking back, that would give you authority. So that's just an idea there. Just looking there. Anna, where is the questions? Can you see them? Or has anyone asked any questions yet? You're on mute, Anna.
Sorry. There was a question earlier from Camilla. Let me just go back to it. It's about keywords. Camilla's asking, how important is keyword optimization with your content versus other SEO activity on the back end, tags, etc.?
Yeah, it's essential. Keyword research is essential. However, it's important to realize that you're using keywords for contextual words as well. So you don't just stuff your site with keywords. So for example, the person who wrote that question, Anna, what business are they in? Do you know?
That's Camilla. She's from Bespoke Communications. So she does a lot of work online herself.
Okay, no problem. So if you're talking about, for example, PR, or if you want, say with communications, if you're talking, for example, social media, and you want to be ranking for social media, you don't just put in social media marketing, social media. What you do is you put in terms that people that are looking to improve their social media rankings are, or their engagement. So you might put I would say, do a keyword cloud, and you would write down all the terms people are interested in. So social media management, social media platforms, different types of it, what's involved. And you're putting all this content in a structured way using headers, links, images. And that's how you would do it. So you need keyword research to find out what people are searching for, but you would do it as a holistic, because especially with voice search now, people won't type social media management. They'll type in the best social media management companies in Northern Ireland. So it's really about getting that in place.
Do you mind if I clarify my question a little bit, Dennis? Do you have time for me to clarify that?
What we'll do is we'll answer them at the very end.
Yeah,
is that okay?
That's fair enough. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks, Camilla. So the next one, this is important. This one is searcher intent. So if anyone is unsure what searcher intent is, this is what a user's intent is to make a search. So it's very important to get this right. So there's a bigger shift now for more strategic SEO, which is going to be critical to succeed at SEO. So when you're building your website, if you're building your online store, whatever it is, you need to understand what the customer is looking for. So simple example is, if you sell shoes, your customer is looking to buy shoes. Okay, that's the first and foremost, right? If they're looking to buy shoes, you need to make sure you categorize it. So if you sell men's and ladies shoes, you need to make sure that if a lady's looking for a shoe, they can easily find the shoe. And then what information do they need to know? They need to know price, they need to know availability, they might need to know information about colors, styles, manufacturer, if they're interested in social issues. They might want to know where it was manufactured. All those items is what the user intent. If I'm doing a study on shoes as research, as a scientific, for a lab, for example, I want a lot more information. So my searcher intent is looking for the materials used. So I'm not your audience if you sell shoes. So you need to look at that, okay? So it's really a motive a person has for making a query through a search engine, and understanding and optimizing for your customer's intent is critical for SEO. So remember, search is always evolving. There's a lot more smarter algorithms, and Google knows everything. And we'll go into more detail when we go into more of the technical stuff. But it's very important, if you're writing a page on whatever it is, you always understand what the intent is for the searcher. So rather than going down the route of just building a page and throwing it out to Google, it's not going to work anymore, because it's all about quality. You much prefer to have 100 people go onto your website to find you that are going to purchase or make an inquiry, than having 1 million people going on the site and they're not your target audience. So it's very important to focus on the searcher intent. And then another reason is Google knows everything, because Google has lots of AI. So just to give you a snapshot, there's Google Discovery we'll talk about later on, and there's Match AI as well. But this slide here just gives you an idea. Google understands what people are searching for. Like, for example, as a tech guy, I might look for Apple. People, the apple.com website will come on. But if a fruit and veg farmer is searching apples, Google will know he's probably looking for the fruit and veg kind. So you can see there, I won't go through the slide, but Google automatically knows the context of each word, even though change is the same word in the whole sentence, but they'll know to, for example, the first one there is adjust. So Google's got very smart algorithm to help user intent. So it's just important to have that in mind. The next one is the EAT principle. Now, I don't know if many of people are familiar with this. Google introduced this, well, it hinted it for a couple of years, but it really introduced it there about 2 years ago. So this is really about being authoritative. So it's being expert, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So it's really one of the algorithms Google really focuses on is building your brand. And this really goes into that area. So if you're writing, say, for example, I'm writing about SEO, Google is trying to get the bullshitters off their page one of Google. So they'll be looking to make sure, are you an expert in your field? Are you talking about the right stuff? Are people linking back to you? Do you trust the content? And no more than ever, this stuff is very, very important. We've survived the Trump era with fake news. There's lots of stuff on Google. So this EAT principle really, it's really self-explanatory. But what you want to do here is to help you with this EAT principle, you want to create customer personas. Now, I don't know, I imagine a lot of you will probably know what buyer personas are, but really all it is write your user stories and describe your customer in detail. And by describing your customer, you'll identify the kind of content that they value, their needs and intent. So whatever that is, just draw out the customer persona, put down as much detail as you want. So when we do customer personas for clients, we would look at their age, their consumer buyer behavior, where they hang out, who they hang out with, what interests them, what websites they might go on, and what are they looking for, and what's their buyer behavior. All that kind of information is very important, because if you understand that, you know what kind of content to write for them. For example, if someone is looking for a treatment, they're going to be looking for, straight away, they'll want information on price first to make sure do they qualify. So don't be afraid to put prices on the site or create an engagement for them to look at the price. If they're looking for treatments, they want to know what are the side effects maybe. They want to look at how long treatment's going to last. So that's the information they're looking for. You know, if you're a dentist, it would work in that way as well. So that's the kind of content they're interested in. They don't care about the chemical. They don't want the full article about the way the chemical is buoyed up for whatever filling you put in your teeth. You know, they might only want to know if it's white or metallic or something. But you need to know what your needs are. So that's the first thing. The second thing is conduct as much search intent research. So look at what the demand is online, help them figure out what their research is. So if they're buying a car, they might go to YouTube first and look at videos. Then they might look at customer reviews. They might have a whole customer journey long before they go at your website. So you need to understand at what stage they land on your platform. And then third, use this information to create content that fits the format that your users prefer. For example, if you're catering to consumers, video is probably important. If you're catering to someone's specialist audience, a different format. They often say that if you're targeting to the younger audience, focus on video first, because they won't read in detail. And it's a little bit of a kind of a, how true is that? But we know that from Instagram and other things is if you're dealing with that audience, maybe video is better. So you need to understand what medium, because it's not just about textual words. It's about the whole heap of media content that you can work with. And then finally, make sure you have this in mind as you craft your authoritative content. So back up claims if it's part of your industry with statistics, facts, and maybe link to reputable sites. So I give you an example of this. So we have a client, I think Lauren from our office is in on this meeting today, and we have a client that specializes in gas suppression systems and fire sprinklers in Dublin. They'd be the leading authoritative figure with fire sprinkler companies. Anything from, they do all the work for Microsoft, Google. And when they came to us to design their website and do all the content and get them ranking on Google, they already had a strong customer base. That wasn't a problem. They just wanted to be more authoritative, to be known out there and to build their brand a bit more with the key decision makers, as their buying cycle is very long. So they want to make sure when the QS is looking for stuff that they come across the brand. If someone's even studying a paper on gas suppression, they come across the company. So by doing this and putting the authoritative figure, so for example, in Google, this is google.ie, you type gas suppression systems, our client comes up number one, but not only they come number one, do you see the snippet and the drop down underneath the gases? I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but you can see that by using the EAT principle, we were able to get pages on the site and accordions ranking on the Google search results. Because if you remember what I said earlier about the person at home in their pajamas on the couch looking for stuff, if Google can give you the information before you even go on the website, it's even better. So if that person's looking for gas suppression systems, they can click down and see the details there. Now, Google did get in a bit of trouble in France, and I think that they changed their terms in Australia recently. I don't know if you've been following the news about what happened with the news sites. So what happened was Google were putting the news sites information on their SERP results. So people didn't even have to click on the website to see the news. And what happened was they weren't getting their ad revenue. So they've put in lots of legal cases to Google. So Google have given them, I think, about £1 billion kitty to get them off their backs. But I think we're going to hear a lot more about that in the future. But for you as a customer, you won't mind your content being shown because you're given an authoritative figure. So that's just how the EAT principle in action. We're okay for time. Yeah. So the next one is behavior analytics data. So SEO used to be more about SEO used to be mostly about driving traffic and keywords. However, it's evolved a lot more. So it's really about looking at the analytics, retention, and lifetime value. So it's important looking at that details. And I think the workshop I'm doing next week, which is about how to win at e-commerce, we'll look at this in more detail. But to give you an insight is Google evolves very fast, and it wants to give instant satisfaction, and it wants to take responsibility beyond visits. So what it wants you as a company is, rather than just trying to get your keyword ranking in Google, it wants you to combine your user experience data, your conversion data, your revenue data, and to make that more important. So we think keyword volume is going to take a back seat, and it's going to be more about this behavior analytic data. So exactly like what your customer is doing, how they're doing it, and how we can get them to do it more quickly. And basically then reverse engineer that content to get you the results you want. So it's a bit like I said earlier about the person buying shoes. You need to find out what they want and then get them there quickly. Like Amazon is a great example. What do you want to do when you go on Amazon? You want to find your product quickly and you want to purchase it and then go back to what you're doing every day. So when they introduced that one click about 4 or 5 years ago, that changed the behavior, and other companies are catching up because they understood their customers really well. We've probably all been there, buying something on Amazon and it's bought before you realize you clicked the button. So Amazon took that very seriously and they look at these in detail. So it's important to look at this, especially if you're dealing with e-commerce. So again, it's just to make more of your traffic, you have to work harder in order to close the gaps in revenue and demonstrate your return on investment. And then I mentioned there about keyword volume, we take a back seat. So what that really is it's all very good having a website, but you need to make sure you put your heat maps on it. You look at your data, look at your bounce rate and all those details. So I hope that's kind of hinted on it. Again, I know it's a short workshop, so if anyone has any questions, I can take them at the end of this as well. So this is the final slide, and this one is about your SEO trends overview. So these are things you want to be looking at for 2021 and beyond. So page speed's always going to be up there. So you need to make sure the page speed's very quick. Self-explanatory, really. You don't want people clicking on a website and it's taking a long time. Their attention span's a lot less than what it used to be. So it's important that the site speed is very quick. And you do that with your SEO and also with the way the site's built and through technical and server information as well. The next one up there is mobile first indexing. We know Google introduced mobile first a few years ago. So Google actually indexes your website from a mobile phone before it does any desktop. So if any of you don't have a mobile first website, you really need to get that addressed. And Google bots won't load content requiring user interactions either. So, you know, some desktops might have clicking and striping on it. So just make sure Google can see this, because they call that lazy loaded content. And you want to be very careful, because if you put a lot of your content behind different fancy interactions and it's awkward for people to access it on a mobile phone, Google may penalize you. Now, it might not, but you just need to be aware of that. The next one is image optimization. So earlier on, when I did the slide on your alt tags and how your on-site SEO is very important, image optimization, I think, is going to play a much larger role in search, because visual images have evolved drastically. Because imagine people now in the future will be able to use images to purchase products, get more information. And Google always has insisted on proper marking and optimization of images, including alt tags. So it makes sense it's going to be in the long-term plan. So I think another snippet to take away from this is image optimization. The reason I'm confident in this is because Google always has rewarded sites that looked after businesses and SEO people that have taken the images seriously. I know that from personal experience. When I started doing SEO back in 2007, early on, I realized that alternative tags made a massive part to improve SEO, and a lot of people forget about it. And in one particular client, I think, we started working with them in 2011, and they're still a client. They were making losses in the first couple of years, and then we slowly got them up to 300 grand sales. 10 years later, they turned over 8 million last year. And what we did for them back in 2011 was they had about 5,000 images on their website, and the images were called the number that was taken on the camera. So the image was called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The images were too big. They weren't loading properly on the browser, and they no alt tags. So we spent, I think it was about 4 months work just sorting their images. And the problem with SEO is you have to go with your gut. But by spending that long, we took all the images down, we resized them. Now, this was before fancy content management systems. This was when you had to create 3 different image sizes: the thumbnail, the category image, and then the main image. So it was slow, tedious work. But by doing it, I named all the images of what the product was, added alternative text, and that site went to number 1 and is still number 1 today. Now, we do ongoing SEO, but that was a massive part of it. So do not underestimate optimizing your images. And the final thing I would say on image optimization is alternative text. I'll take any questions after this on that as well. But when you're writing alternative text, don't just put in the keyword. Be as descriptive as you can. So remember, if you're putting, I just use the shoe example again. If you have a shoe on your website, don't just put it alt text as shoe. If it's a men's black leather shoe, write down men's black leather shoe. Really be descriptive, because when Google introduced new algorithms that allow you to press buttons to buy the shoe on a button rather than going onto a page, if you've all your image optimization done, you'll be ahead of the game. So that's why it's important. We talked about the EAT principle already in detail. So I don't need to go into that more detail, but it's just about getting your content right. And it's about making sure the content is focused on the person you want to target, not for everybody. We discussed a bit in detail in behavior analytics. Again, I'll be talking about this more in detail next week, but a lot of this is self-explanatory. If you're spending a lot of time investing in your multi-channel, so SEO is only one part of that, remember, but you need to look at the data. I gave an example of that toy company that we were able to find out what the issue was with the conversion rate. But if you're trying to get more interaction on your site and to improve your rankings, if you go onto your website today and you break it down in the Google Analytics into the content and you pick the first 10 pages, and if you look at bounce rates, and just before I start, I imagine everybody here knows what a bounce rate is, but just in case you don't, your bounce rate is a great number that lets Google knows how engaging your content is. So if you've got a high bounce rate, like 90%, means people land on your website and leave straight away. So that might mean they went on the wrong website. You might have wrong content on it. Your site might have technical issues. So what you really want is a low bounce rate. If you're e-commerce, you want something around 20% bounce rate. A 0% bounce rate of someone walking into your store, see that you sell brown men's shoes, go into the checkout and leave, that's 0%. professional sites, you're talking anything about 40% bounce rate, depending on what pages. So one of the things I would recommend you do is go onto your Google Analytics, go into your behavior area, click on the content tab, look at the top pages that people visit. And if you see pages there that have a high bounce rate, work on those pages. So if you sell bookkeeping services, but you're also an accountant and you realize, how come I'm getting no work for my bookkeeping services? Check your web page. And if you feel that the bounce rate's high, that's your first indication that you need to improve that page. And then you would design it better, put better content on it, structure it with H1 headers and so forth. So that's why behavior analytics is very important. We can't leave today if we don't talk about voice search. When I first did this, a few people had it in their homes. I think now, is it 55% in 2021 have some point of voice search in their home? If it's Google or Alexa or Siri, they're going to have it. So it's very important to be aware of it. And remember, if you want to optimize for voice search, you have to consider your keywords. So identify longer phrases that people use in everyday conversation. So remember, voice searches do a lot better with longer natural phrases. So we know this in our everyday. So a person might voice search, what are the new SEO trends for 2021? But in Google, they'll just type new trends 2021 for SEO. So it's really about understanding your market. And what you could do there is you could write a detailed page focused on the way people write in the conversation, and it'll improve it. And then if that works very well for voice and it doesn't work for desktop, you could obviously adapt your content for that, but it's really about perfecting it. Okay, so just ensure you write the content how you speak it to benefit your voice search strategy. Featured snippets. We discussed this at the start of the presentation. So these just satisfy the user's need for simple answers with the questions. So if you want, if you're baking a cake, you type in how to bake a cake, you'll probably notice the snippets going down. So when you're doing your content, use bullet points, use numbering, break up your content, spread it out. That really helps you with feature snippets. I showed you an example there on our client that there's gas suppression, but there's, if you check online, there's lots of different examples on that. We're almost to the end now, guys. So AI rank brain. So rank brain and predictive search is going to improve. We know that AI is getting smarter and smarter. So you need to captivate and engage readers with useful, well-organized content to compete with rank brain. So the Google's AI algorithm plays an important role in the search results. And Google has always been secretive, right? When I started SEO, I tested it on my own website. I still have a website that's #1 for SEO agency Cork. And we tested it first to find out what Google do, because Google will not tell you anything. So while Google won't share any details of this AI, experts believe that user experience signals are going to be a massive importance. And then the other one they have is Google Discovery. So this one was launched in 2021. And this one, it doesn't even need you to type in a user query. So this is where it'll identify the most accurate content most likely to interest the user. And this content is based on algorithms inspecting content quality and user interest. So although Google has communicated no factors on this, it seems to be based on location, browsing history, app usage, calendars, search history, and other locations as well. So if you're ever on Google and you type something, you write, Jesus, how did Google know that was exactly what I needed? You're more than likely it's the AI algorithm that you're giving you the answer. And then a final one on the trends is building your brand. When the former CEO was asked at the end of a presentation about 6-7 years ago, he said, what one thing would you tell people to do for their SEO? He said, build your brand. And it's fitting that we finish on that, because that is really reinforces all the stuff we spoke about today. If you build your brand, so whatever it is, the reason why we reformed the company Grofuse a few years ago, we wanted a unique brand, and we wanted to make the brand stand for quality and our focus on expertise and results. We wanted a unique name. So when you're building your brand, you need to make sure you build your brand through trust, good work, word of mouth, authoritative figure, good content. So by building your brand, you're effectively doing all the things that Google tell you to do. So if you focus on building your brand over the next couple of years, you'll have a big results focus for your company. And just the final thing I'll add in as well is, if you're a retailer in Northern Ireland, there's lots of funding. There's one there I mentioned there yesterday. It's the COVID grant for retailers. I think you get 80% of your funding, up to 5,000, to invest in your website, digital marketing, improving it. And I think the criteria is you just need to have some retail premises placed. And if you go on to the Grofuse website under the services, I think there's information on it, but it's definitely one to look at anyway. And if anyone needs any help with that, or if they have any questions, please let me know. So that's the end of our workshop, and I'm happy to take any questions now. So I'm just going to end the slides. And Anna, where would I find the questions?
Yeah, we have in chat, Dennis, we have a question from Anya at Foil International. She's asking if you're targeting customers from overseas, which obviously they do, and they'll be searching for your services in another language. How do you research your keywords, and also how do you use keywords for those target countries?
Yes, okay. So, sorry, what was the person's name that asked the question?
Anya from Foil International Language School.
No problem. I see your question here. Hi, Anya. If you're targeting customers from overseas, you do it in the same way we discussed today. So you find out their user intent and find out the keywords they use, and then you would adapt the content. So is your target audience in different countries that use different language? I imagine they do, but even if they don't, what you would do is you would need to implement a feature on your website that picks up where the IP address is. So I'll give you a simple example. If you're in the if you're in Dublin, for example, and you go onto the Grofuse website, it'll be grofuse.com, and it's going to be, even without you realizing, all the content is related to really around the Dublin area. Most of our clients in the south is around the Dublin, Cork area. So if you go on to the grants page or information like that, you'll see information related to that. But if you're in Northern Ireland or the UK and you go on to the Grofuse website, you might notice it, but in the URL, it'll have a thing called EN, and that will relay content for that market. So you do it in the same way. So if your strategy is to focus on your target audience in particular countries, I would work on that strategy one at a time and just change the features that are needed. Like, for example, I put in context, we've a client down in Galway that sells smoked fish, and most of their customers are in France. So when you go onto their website, there is a full English site, but there's also a French site, and they put a lot of thought process into how the French use their website, because it probably makes up to about 400 or 500 grand of their sales. So Anya, I don't know if you can speak there, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. That's actually very helpful. We have customers from really all over the world, from Europe, from outside Europe. So would you recommend then either creating another site in each of those languages in our target countries, or landing pages? Would that be better?
What I would really suggest is, in the modern world, if you could have one site that picks up the different languages and then shows content related to them, it's better. However, it depends on the strategy and it depends on your market. If you go to, and it depends on your resources as well, Anya. If you have resources to manage a website in each country, and then you can do all the SEO for that one and optimize it and then add content. And then when you're adding a blog post, you have to add it to your 10 different websites. That's fine. But if you don't have the resources, don't make extra work for yourself. So the way you would do it, if it's a WordPress site, you could use a multilingual plugin. But you speak to your web developer or IT, or if you have any questions, look, you can obviously email me and I'll be happy to answer any more questions or direct you to the right people. But I can't give you an answer right now, Anya, if it's the best way, because it depends on what you need and your resources. So I would really put people off building a new website in different jurisdictions unless you've got a team of people there to do it, because you might not need to.
Okay, thanks very much. That's very helpful.
No problem. But I would recommend you own the domains anyway, so you could always do redirects. Okay. Will I go through all these questions, Anna?
But I just go back to Camilla, maybe, because Camilla had asked a question there and didn't get a chance.
Yes.
So we'll take it at the end. So maybe, Camilla, we could take your question if that's okay.
Well, thank you, Paul. That's very kind. Dennis, thank you so much for, wow, talk about a packed presentation. So many things for me to scribble down. So I am going back to my earlier question. The reason, honestly, the universe provides, the reason I'm here is that I really have sat down and decided it's time for us to focus on SEO on our website at this moment. And guess what? Within a minute of me thinking that, I got approached by somebody off the internet, off LinkedIn, who, guess what they did, was SEO. And they've given me this proposal and it looks too good to be true. So I feel like it is. I don't have to do anything and my search engine ranking is going to fly through the roof. So I always thought you'd spend so much time, blogging, getting your keyword optimized content up there. I thought that was a huge part of your ranking strategy. But I was given to understand by this particular agency that actually, no, you can just do all this, things with the tags and the alt tags and your H1s and all of those things, and Bob's your uncle, it's going to happen. So really, where is the balance?
Yeah, you should pass on my their number to me. It sounds they're great. To answer your question, Camilla, just on those emails you get, sometimes if it's too good to be true, it can be.
Yeah.
Did the email come from a company or did it come from a Gmail?
Oh no, they're a reputable crowd based in GB. I looked them up and they're a large outfit and they have a load of technicians who sit there and do tag optimization and all sorts of stuff. My big thing was I thought I had to put a lot of effort into my content in order for SEO to happen, but this doesn't seem to be the case. Has it changed? Is there something changed that I don't know about?
No, content is very important, but it's really about going back to the user intent. So if this company is going to do some research as well and do customer personas and make recommendations and fix titles, it might make a difference. But it really depends on how your site's ranking at the moment. Because one of the things I used to hear for years is you need a blog. If you get a blog, you'll be number one on Google. And that's bull, pure bull. We've a client that's number one for trailer parts, trailer lights, anything to do with trailers in Google.ie. He's number one for everything. That client wouldn't know a blog if you threw it at his face, and I don't mean, you don't need a blog to be number one in some cases, but in your particular case for bespoke communication. So I imagine your main business, I'm guessing it's around PR and content.
Well, it's public speaking coaching. So actually people come on, looking for ideas on how to be better public speakers. Okay.
What you really need to focus on, I can't answer for this other company, but what you really need to focus on is the intent your customer has and where they are in the buying cycle when they speak to you. So yours is going to be more difficult because will people have a particular word, that will help them? But I imagine it'll go around the lines of coaching, communication coaching in that area. But you really need to figure out what your personas are. So it might be, and this is me just making it up now, you could have a section on your website as where are you with your communication? So there could be a thing is, I have a big presentation to do. I need help with my words, whatever it is. So if you answer those questions on your website, that might add great value. So then you just make sure you're 100% right, get the keyword stuff done, get the meta titles and the meta tags, but it's really structuring the site. Is that clear, Camilla?
Yeah, basically you've said, look, it's not a hands-off process. I always thought you did need to get stuck in and you really did need to think these things through. It's not as simple as having a technical wizard, comb the site at the back end and boom, you'll jump up the rankings.
No, you're right, but you do need your site needs to be technically sound, but after that, it's all about the content. It's why Google rewards businesses that value their customers rather than SEO agencies. So it's just very, very important to make sure it's all about the customer. And then it might depend on their buyer behavior as well. And LinkedIn might be a good approach to work for your business. I don't know in particular, but you need to know what you want to be ranking for. So I would often, the chief would be check competitors that are doing really well and have a look at what they're doing and seeing are they ranking and what their content is like, and that'll give you a good insight of what you should be doing. But I'd be happy to assist any technical questions outside of this if you like after.
Thanks, Dennis. You've really been of service today. Thank you.
No problem. Susanna or Morgan? So are you happy, Anna, for me to go through these questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Susanna's maybe already, hopefully she's already found what she was looking for from that.
Yeah, Selena here. But yes, no, I got a lot out of Camilla's. Just one thing that we have is that we've just recently created our new website, or built our new website, and we provide a legal services. Now, what my kind of where I bank is, we would have a lot of competitors in our local area surrounding us. So yes. I want to be able to know, what's the best thing to get up there. So should I start blogging, start putting in the keywords and stuff like that? I know keywords isn't everything, as you said, but I just want some tips of where to get where our competitors are. What's
okay. Well, obviously you're a legal firm. Is there an area you specialize in?
Yes, we do a lot of everything, but mostly family, probate and litigation. But we kind of do a bit of everything, but we focus a lot on family as well.
Okay, no problem. I know this subject really well because we've just finished building a site for a large firm focused on medical negligence, personal injury and probate, focused in the Dublin area. So to do that, we needed to build our site from an SEO point of view. And we're currently doing the SEO on Google Ads for that particular company at the moment. So what I would say there is not so much blogging. Don't think of it as blogging. So think about it as topics people are interested in. So one of the things people don't realize on Google is if you go to google.com or google.co.uk and you type in, for example, family law. So am I still sharing my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I type in family law, for example, I'm just using private browser here. So see the predictive text that comes down here.
Yes.
This is what people, your specific question was, if I get you right, Susanna, is how do we get better local results in your area because it's very competitive. So what you do is you write down, so people are looking family law definition, criminal law, property law, and then down here at the bottom, people forget. See this here? This are people looking for. Now I'm at Burnfoot, so I'm coming up with the Google.ie results. But you can see people are looking for family court, family law solicitors, definition court. So what we did, I can just give you an example of what we did for the client that is looking for medical negligences. And don't take this any way wrong, anyone in the legal profession, okay? and I do it all the time because I'm in the SEO tech, and I keep talking like when you index your website, and some clients look at me and go, what the hell is he on about, right? So sometimes in the legal profession, you're speaking legal talk and you're not communicating the language that your target audience is searching for.
Yeah.
So for example, with the medical negligence, there was a couple of terms in there. And when I looked into the keyword research, a lot of people were typing in, the definition of medical negligence. You know what medical negligence is as a solicitor because you spent years in college about it. Most people know about it if they read the news, but a lot of people, and including myself, is that we know what medical negligence is, but we don't really know exactly what it is. So if you're doing family law on your family law landing page, you could just put in a couple of lines and a header that says, what exactly does family law mean? Or what is family law? And a couple of lines is, now I'm making this up in my head, but family law is dealing in the court with family issues ranging from A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
So by answering that question on your family law page, you've added value to me, the customer. Now I don't feel like a numpty when I'm about to phone you and you tell me what family law is, because I want to be empowered on Google. Okay, so that's one area. Then the next thing you do in family law is what types of family law. So for example, not giving too much kind of away, in our particular client that does medical negligence, even on the homepage, so we talk about the company and what they do, but straight away, how can we help? And then there's a list of how can we help you today? So I'm looking at medical negligence, I'm looking at personal injury claims. And then when you click on medical negligence, you talk about what is medical negligence, how we can help you, compensation claims, and then underneath it, it lists down types of medical negligence claims we focused on. Okay, so don't think of it as a blog, as you mentioned. Think about it adding value. Now, if you feel there's a blog in there, if you feel like there's a blog needed about, I'm making this up again, but if you're divorcing, the difference between hiring a solicitor or trying to do it, applicable or whatever the thing is, in your family law divorce page, you could mention a link, but you write a full blog article about it then, and then you get your ideas from here. So if I put up here family, don't know why I put in divorce, but if you just see divorce, so basically need divorce papers, right? So I don't know if you do divorce and family law. So down here, the questions are, can I get a divorce by myself? So what you would do here is you would have an FAQ. So I would finish this way, right? So I already showed you this company, right? So gas suppression, right? So remember the one about the gas suppression, the exciting world of gas suppression, okay? Right, down here, see the way we have systems in place. And now Google does pick up this text. So we've listed all the details, but if you're not interested in it, you just scan through. Now, this is created for QSs and insurance companies that need this type of gas, okay? So this is the content was written. Your average person's not going to be looking up this website, but we wrote all the content in detail. And then there's other pages there that has nice FAQs. So that's hopefully that answers your question, Suzanne.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks.
My brain.
Sorry, I skipped Dawn. Yeah, there's going to be a copy of the slides, Dawn. So if I just go on to Daniel, no, sorry, Paul, you were asking a question there. How often do the terms of engagement change in Google?
Well, what I guess I mean by that, and it's like the rules seem to change fairly rapidly. How do you stay on top of it, really? Because obviously
growing grey hairs.
Yeah, and so, but everybody's trying to get that pecking order, and all the things described. So, like, how often do you need to review these things? I suppose, really, to make sure that you're not lifting down the scale of this.
Right. I'll be doing this a bit more next week because we'll be talking about Win e-commerce and what numbers you need to focus on. But the best way to do this is, first of all, Google's always changing, right? Google's always evolving. There's millions of employees there. They're always changing. So that's never going to change. They also don't tell you anyway what they do. So it's very secretive. So it all comes down to results. If you've got a business website that's performing, that's generating inquiries, track it every month. So if you get 10 inquiries every month, and on average there's about 700 people on your website, and you're happy with those levels of inquiries, just keep an eye on your rankings once a month. And as long as everything seems okay, don't rock the boat. Okay. But if you notice your phone has stopped ringing one day, and then the next day it stopped ringing, have a look at your Google rankings in your site and see then, is there an issue? And then you do your investigation. So what we do for customers on an ongoing SEO basis is we have KPIs that we keep an eye on every month, and we make sure that they work. And if they drop, then we do a bit of research. Now, I'm an SEO geek, so I'll follow what Google is doing and I'll keep an eye on and I'll test different things. But for everybody else, if you do that, you'll be fine. And don't panic. And one other thing is, if you have a site that's number 1 or number 2, and all of a sudden it jumps to number 20, do not panic. The amount of times we've companies, and even forget about clients, we've people in our office that panic when the rankings drop. And I've been doing this long enough. What happens is, if Google does a core update, it'll feck up the rankings locally for about a day or two, and it'll settle down again. So if it doesn't settle, then you can look in detail, but it's really, don't worry. And I'll just finish on for your question, Paul, on this point is, remember the slide I did about how Google works? Think of that. If you just focus on the user, make sure your site's good, there's no technical issues. If people are using your site on a mobile phone and it's a good mobile, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
So basically, they reward good behavior, I think, was something I picked up from what you said, Dennis.
What's that?
They reward good behavior if your site.
They reward good behavior. I remember years ago when I started, I came from a marketing point of view. That's my qualification. So I always focus on the user. And I remember clients telling me, oh, I was told that if you pay £50 or this Fiverr.com and you buy 1,000 links, your site will be number 1. And thankfully, I never went down that route, but that's called black hat SEO. Now, Google have banned that, thankfully, about 2012, 13. But if you try to cheat Google, I said in the slide, Google knows everything. So you do not want to cheat Google. So just look after the customer, do things right. Now, just before, I don't want you thinking, Daniel, we're goody two shoes either, right? So in terms of SEO, you can have fun strategies. Now, we've clients that hate their competitors with a passion. Now, I don't mean anything bad, but they just want to be ahead of them. So there's all different tricks and trades you can do to get the site ranking in different counties for your competitors. There's ones where you can get ranking if your customers Google your competitor, there's ways of you getting ranking. There's fun stuff you can do, like, testimonials is a great way to do different counties. If you've got a picture of you and all your competitors out at a function, you can write a great article listing all your competitors, but put it down your blog post about 5 years ago, so it's way down at the bottom, but you'll start getting ranking. There's other things you can do, but it's really about being good for your user.
Well, Dennis, I'm just conscious. I'm brilliant. I'm just conscious of the time. At the moment, we've got past the hour slot, and I realize that maybe some people would like to move on. I know there were a couple of questions.
I've three questions, and I can quickly go through these.
If you could give a quick, that would be great. And I know we have the opportunity to revisit it next week as well on Tuesday, because as Anna said, she's going to send out the information on the next week's webinar as well. So if you could just flick through those quickly.
Yeah, I'll go through quickly. So Daniel, your question about Bing. Yes, Bing has slightly different traits than Google, but in Europe, Google is 95% of the market. So that's why most of these SEO are on Google. When I started SEO back in 15 years ago, I used to optimize the website for Google. Then I had to optimize it for Yahoo, and then I have to optimize it for Bing. You don't do that anymore, but if your customers are on Bing, you might get some great inquiries from it. So it's very similar. Bing copies Google, but there might be some differences. Next one is, are backlinks to your website a good thing? Yes, Neve, as long as they're good quality ones. and it goes back to authoritative figure, and it goes back to industry. If you're an accountant, there's no point having the #1 fish shop linking back to your website. So you want to make sure it's relevant links back. So I think that's all you need to know on that one. And then the last one, thanks, Dawn. And then Paul, do you have any recommendations for free online tools for SEO audit? Yeah. Screaming Frog is a great one. Now, again, it's a technical one. So Screaming Frog, I see Camilla looking at me going, did he say Screaming Frog? So Screaming Frog is a great tool. There's a paid version as well, but the free one, it allows you to quickly find out any technical issues on your website. Google keyword, all the Google ones are important. So the Google Search Console is your #1. Use that. Obviously, look at Google Analytics and Google Keyword Planner. So even if you don't do Google AdWords, sign up, put in your credit card, but don't turn on any campaign, and you can use all the free tools on that. They're the main ones. We pay for certain ones like Hrefs and stuff, but there's Screaming Frog, Search Console, Google Analytics, and the one I showed you on my screen earlier, the one where you type into Google and it gives you predictive text. That's really good as well.
Excellent. Dennis, look,
okay,
thank you.
All the questions.
That's brilliant. Look, thanks very much. That, you know, it has engaged people this morning. There's no doubt about that, because we are about 20 minutes over, and we have lost very few people on. No, don't apologize. Look, there were genuine questions there. It just shows that this topic, we could do a lot more on this topic, and I guess we'll chat on another area of it next Tuesday, but maybe we need to look at having more of a series of these, because I think you touched on so many things, and you've opened new language as well that a lot of people weren't. I certainly wasn't familiar with it. Different ways of looking at things. And yes, it is an area that needs a lot of focus if you're starting a business in particular. And we've a lot of small members on our data. We've a lot of small members as well who could really help with the extra support that we can get there. So, Dennis, look, thanks a million for your time today. It really was informative, and thanks for everybody staying on. So I think, Anna, you were going to send out. We have another one on Tuesday. I might just give a brief. What's Tuesday? Next Tuesday is?
That's winning at e-commerce, and obviously that's looking a bit further into setting up online and selling online. And Dennis is a great man to be able to tell us more about that. So if you're interested to pick up on that one, I'll send you more details, and you can register and let me know if you would like to attend, and I'll send you the link.
That's brilliant, Anna. Thanks.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you anything, Anna, on the presentation next week, just to give a line on it, or are you
just a quick one, Dennis, if everybody's okay with that?
All it's for is online is very important, especially post-COVID. So it's really about looking at how you can measure your online success and improve your sales and your conversion rate. So it's really about looking at systems in place for that. Brilliant. And I better get working on that presentation.
Great stuff, Dennis. Great to hear a Cork voice on a webinar. So you've come a long way from Cork up to Derry here, so fair play to you.
I know my poor Cork accent's getting destroyed with my Derry ladies I live with, my daughter and my wife.
You have no fear at all. The accent is there's no problem. You haven't lost it, I can assure you. So look, we're looking forward to Tuesday already, and thanks so much for your time. And on behalf of the Chamber, we'd like to thank you again, Dennis, and all our participants today. So without further ado, we might just sign off there. And thanks again for everybody who stayed on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Bye.